Mr. Cameraman, boards of education, parents, families, friends, and of course, the graduating class of 2020. Welcome. When my little cousin was 3 years old, he signed up for the under 5 t-ball team. His name is Kieran. Most everyone on the squad was a year older than him, and on his first day, he's wearing a youth small baseball shirt that came down over his knees and a hat that came down over his eyes. He was ready for the big leagues. It's the very first practice of the season, and it was time to go over the basics. So the coach brings them all to a huddle on home plate, and he says, all right, everyone, who here knows? Where is first base? They all scratched their head for a minute, and suddenly, as if inspiration struck him like lightning, my cousin's hand shot up. Yes, Kieran, show us where it is. Immediately, Kieran takes off running at a full sprint, right to third base. Everyone else, thinking that Kieran had the right idea, took off running after him. It was like a bumblebee swarm, all flying towards the wrong hive. The coach just put his head down and shook it slowly back and forth. So he went to work, explaining in detail how each of the bases operated. Here, he said, is home plate. This is where you stand and hit the ball. Now, if you hit a single, you're going to run here to first. He walked the entire group, a little swarm of 3- and 4-year-old munchkins, to the first bag. If you hit a double, he said, you'll go to second base right over here. They walked. And if you hit a really big one and run really fast, you might be able to make it all the way to third base right here. Of course, if you smack one out of the park, if you slam one into the stands, well, then you'll head all the way around the bases back to where you started for a home run. This whole process took them an hour. And at the end of their first practice, the coach took a big breath, satisfied with his expert teaching, and he asked one more time, okay, everyone, now, where is first base? And without hesitation, everyone threw up their hands and pointed in every direction but first. Where is first base? The game has been explained to you not just for one practice, but for 13 years of them. Kindergarten to 12th grade. Once you graduate high school, they said, you'll run to first base, to college or an internship or something like it, and you'll get your degree and your credentials, and then you'll be on to second base, to your career and hopefully financial security, and onwards to third, to your family and kids and your mid-40s, and finally, eventually to home, your pension. Social Security, retirement, and death, I suppose. And you've been preparing all the way they said you should, and doing your best the whole time. You've made it through playground drama, middle school puberty, and high school physics. You've started essays the night before they're due, and perhaps you've attempted a first kiss, even though you didn't have a clue. You've watched the world change, and you've changed a lot along with it. For some of you, school has helped reveal what you care about. Some of you read To Kill a Mockingbird and were moved to want to become a lawyer, just like Atticus Finch. Some of you read Lord of the Flies and wanted to study psychology or be on season 42 of Survivor. Some of you took an art class and realized you wanted to create or make beautiful or important revolutionary things for the world. Some of you solved an equation in math or in science and realized that there were more complicated problems you wanted to solve. Some of you sat in the front row of your government class and felt moved to help fix a broken system in need of young and passionate voices. For 13 years, you've been made some guarantees that if you check all the right boxes, if you put in the work, if you get this diploma and then maybe that degree, then doors would be open for you, that you, like so many classes before you, would head into the game and run the bases. But at the end of your senior year, the world took away your guarantees. The roadmap that had been laid out got torn up, and the bases that you were meant to run were pulled out from underneath you. You're graduating in the midst of a global pandemic, and you've never practiced for this. This wasn't a part of your training, and no one walked you around these bases. Life isn't linear anymore. All the straight lines have gone zigzagged. Things that you thought were set in stone suddenly aren't. The senior games, the proms, the in-person tassel turnings. You are walking into a world with less promises. What does college look like in the fall? I was ready for my first job and no one's hiring. Where's first base? Because it's not where it used to be. And I couldn't be more excited for you. Class of 2020, the world has given you an opportunity to do something new, to break old baselines and possibly stumble on a new and better way to play the game. If you always do what you've always done, they say, you will always get what you've always gotten. The world is ready for a brand new game, and you're the ones who are going to design it. It's been a very long time since people have had a blank slate. And instead of coloring in between the lines that someone else drew for you, you get to draw on them yourself. Is that terrifying? Of course. But terror is usually just a warning sign that you are in uncharted territory, to which I say, finally. It's time to be explorers and path forgers. It's time to build new systems that treat ourselves and others better than the old ones. Life is no longer a straight, white baseline. It's all colors, and it goes in any direction you choose. I don't want to offer you any advice on what to do with this newfound freedom. You've been given advice for 13 years, and most of it was based on the old rules. Instead, I want to offer you 3 questions, guiding reflections to help you make your decisions, whether you're in the middle of a pandemic or whether your thoughts are racing in the middle of the night. In this new game you are inventing, the first question is about how you keep score. My friend Kyle Sheely once told me that the way he defines success was the number of nights he came home smelling like campfire. When he said it, I had this sudden realization that so much of my life, so much of how I defined success, had to do with the scorecards other people had handed me. My GPA, how much money I made, how many followers I had, the type of college I went to. You know, most disappointment in our life comes from unmet expectations. And if we aren't paying attention, we will spend our whole life trying to meet expectations that we had little say creating in the first place. I've decided that for me, success in my life will be measured by the number of days I dance until I sweat, the number of messages I receive that say, "You just made my day," and the number of meals I cook and eat with people I love. As you think about how you'll keep score in your life, ask yourself question 1. Is this my version of success? Is this my campfire? The second question is about how we choose to play our position. My guess is you've been asked the question too many times, what do you want to do when you grow up? But you know the more important question will always be, who do you want to be when you grow up? In the sudden absence of jobs and our normal to-do lists, who we are to each other has quickly become more important than our job titles. When my mom was overcoming stage 4 colon cancer, one of her nurses was named Wonderful. She had the same job as the other nurses, but she did it differently. She came in singing and she left dancing. She always had a smile on her face and always left us with one on ours. I learned that Wonderful wasn't her given name, but she chose to go by it. When I asked her why she went with Wonderful, she said, "It's who I want to be." My mom's nurse did her work well, but she lived her life wonderful. The projects we take on are important, but how we treat people along the way matters even more. Our to-be lists have a lot more value than our to-do lists. So whenever you're thinking about what to do next, pair it with the question 2. Is this who I want to be? Is this the most wonderful version of me? Question 3. The last question is about teamwork. Are you playing the game for yourself? Your points, your trophies, your glory? Or is this a team sport? Do you believe that your success is bound up in the success of others? Will you lead your team to a collective victory, or do you just want the ball for yourself? Robert Greenleaf once said that the true test of a leader is whether or not you leave people better than you found them. especially those with the least amount of power. What happens when you look at your game through the lens of leadership? Can you help others play the game better? Are there barriers that need removing so people can play more fairly? Is it just about your win, or is the win bigger than you? When you're deciding who will benefit from your next play, try on question 3. Will this leave things better than when I found them? Is this my version of success? Is this who I want to be? Will this leave things better? It's the end of practice, and like my cousin's coach when he was 3 years old, I must ask you, where's first base? Today and your future is less about your ability to get that answer right, to follow the prescribed path to a plate. Perhaps like my cousin, it's more about your willingness to run in any direction, courageously towards new problems and new solutions with a fortitude to fail, a flexibility to adapt, and the grit to embrace sudden change. Life is not linear anymore. Your choices are endless. Your path's infinite. It will be at times incredibly confusing and nearly endlessly frustrating, but you and your class have the unprecedented opportunity to not play by the old rules. Today, for the first time in a long time, it doesn't matter where first base is. That is freedom. And I know that freedom, like all freedom, has cost a lot of things we hold dear. That freedom is a present that has been gift-wrapped in a lot of pain and confusion and the loss of normal. But it's time for new normals, new rules, new bases. So go, class of 2020, run hard in whatever direction you choose. May it take you and all of us somewhere wonderful. How was that? Is that okay? I'm glad we didn't have to wear the gown and the cap thing. I like the new rules. This is better.